And what I want to touch on, some areas that I want to touch on is adultery, fornication, and idolatry. Simply because I like coming from a personal standpoint, and I like being very transparent, because I like people who are transparent. Makes things and people more relatable. And so these are some areas that I know not only I have, I don't want to use the word struggle with, but had challenges with. When you're in a relationship, or when you're in a situation that I don't know, I guess you could say it feels like relationship, and it looks to be that it's moving in that vein and towards that. The casualty of being physical in that nature has been so, I guess you could say, desensitizing to us, to where we've almost really pushed, I don't even want to say almost, we've pushed the word to the side, when it talks about, impurity, and living in a certain manner, because at some point in time it becomes like we're living that way. Even if you're not engaging in it every night or whatever the case may be, it's still a lifestyle. And it's a lifestyle that is not, definitely not glorifying to God, and it's something that he's definitely not pleased with. Not that he's opposed to sex, obviously not. Have you read the Song of Solomon? Blessed God. But he created it for marriage. And I know me personally, I have always stated and said, like in relationship or with someone that I was moving in that vein with, that well, God will forgive me, well, I'm going to be with them anyway, you know what I'm saying? And engaging in things early opens us up for consequences that we don't want. And if you hadn't noticed, I know I have, usually in relationships that are not marital relationships. I mean, of course it happens in marital relationships at times too, but definitely outside of, when there is sexual activity going on, there becomes a question in somebody's mind. There becomes some kind of insecurity. There becomes some kind of issue with trust, simply because it's not supposed to be happening. But we've given ourselves passes. Hello, somebody. Simply because we were in the New Testament times, and it's like, oh, well, we have grace. We can go repent and he's going to forgive us. Yeah, but we're running to it. It's like you're running to that sin, and that becomes idolatrous. One second. Oh, Jesus. Sorry about the rigmarole that you just experienced. They literally decided to come cut the yard right now. Blessed God. Ain't nothing but the devil. He gonna get this word today. But those things become idolatrous. We begin to walk in that casually, and that's another way that Satan really has come to pervert the very thing that God created, and do it in such a cunning and beguiling way, and made things feel so casual, to where we just began to operate in that way, so much to the point that our minds really become reprobate. And that's not a word that you necessarily want to use when describing yourself, because when you're a Christian and when you love God and when you're a believer, and it's like You want to present yourself a certain way. Reprobate definitely isn't a word that you want to use to describe yourself. But when you sit, when you really have time to sit, and sometimes when God decides to deal with you in a manner to where he is saying, I'm finna sit you down in a way you probably don't want to be set down, but it's going to give you time to really look. And Father Jesus, it's going to give you time to look at how you've been, to reflect on how you've been operating, and to really understand the manner in which you've been operating, to see that you're really not running with me the way that you think that you are. You're really not running with me the way that you say that you are. And so when I speak about being reconciled to him, it means that we are coming into a place of being renewed in him again. We're coming into a place of refreshing where we are having a renewed mind, and we are having a renewed heart, and we are allowing ourselves to be humbled in a way to where we own up to the mess that we have been engaging in, so that we can be cleansed, so that we can be purified for what it is that he wants to do in us and with us, not just for us, but for everybody else. Marriage is something, marriage is something that God ordained, and it's something that he ordained to be glorified with. Yeah, he wants to be glorified through our marriages too. He created us to glorify him. So why would marriage be anything different? You know, if he has chosen us individually, because it's some people who are not chosen for marriage, but if he has chosen us for marriage, why wouldn't he want to glorify himself through our marriages? That's why he chooses. He chooses who we are to be in kingdom marriage with. I don't care what nobody say. He chooses. I always go back to the beginning. He chose Eve when he created Eve, because he didn't create anybody else but Eve at that time for Adam. He didn't create Eve and evil and said, okay, you have free will, choose. He chose. Blessed God. But I wrote this, Father Jesus, I wrote this out, and I'm going to share this. It says, of course, kingdom marriage was the purpose, reconciled to him. It says, ultimately, God is to be glorified through the marriage he ordains and seals with his covenant. I often reference Isaac versus Ishmael, and I do. Ishmael was still blessed, of course, and he was. But Isaac was the promise. God, Father Jesus, will have grace on a situation, meaning he'll allow that situation, which is a marriage that we choose to move forward in, because you know sometimes we like to get ahead of the game, right, and mess it all up. The marriage that we choose, and it may have blessings tied to it. You may allow it to even be blessed, but there's a certain level of favor that is placed upon the marriage he chooses and ordains and brings together. But we still must be obedient in that union as well, which is why we can't be unequally yoked. Yeah, you have to be with someone who definitely is in a mindset to hear from God, talk to God about every situation and every decision, because not everybody is going to move like that. You have to be with somebody who is on the same level field in that nature, right? And I have a definition for reconciliation.